Don't you love it when things are both easier and more affordable? Like when the rain washes your car for you. Or like when you save up to 10% by bundling your renters and auto insurance with USAA. Bundle with USAA and start saving. Get a quote today.
Does it ever feel like you're a marketing professional just speaking into the void? Well, with LinkedIn ads, you can know you're reaching the right decision makers. You can even target buyers by job title, industry, company, seniority, skills. Wait, did I say job title yet? Get started today and see how you can avoid the void and reach the right buyers with LinkedIn ads. We'll even give you a $100 credit on your next campaign. Get started at linkedin.com/results. Terms and conditions apply.
Universal Pictures proudly presents Katharine Hepburn.
You're my knight in shining armor. Don't you forget it.
Henry Fonda.
Want to dance? Or would you rather just suck face?
Jane Fonda.
It seems that you and me have been mad at each other for so long.
I didn't know we were mad. I thought we just didn't like each other.
I want to be your friend.
On Golden Pond. Rated PG. Starts Friday at a theater near you.
This Academy Award-winning 80s flick is a captivating, emotionally charged drama that beautifully captures the complexities of love, aging, and family. Set in the tranquil golden hues of a New England lake, the film brings together screen legends Henry Fonda and Katharine Hepburn in a final, unforgettable collaboration. Fonda portrays Norman Thayer, a witty but grumpy elderly man facing the challenges of growing older, while Hepburn shines as his vibrant and supportive wife, Ethel. When their daughter and her fiancé arrive for a summer visit, the peaceful lake becomes the backdrop for deep reflections and heartwarming moments of reconciliation. So power up the motorboat, grab your fishing poles, and watch out for the rocks in Pergatory Cove as Ben Carpenter, Bethany Wells, and I discuss on Golden Pond from 1981 on this episode of the 80s Flick Flashback Podcast.
Hues and all his teen dreams, montages and synthwave themes. In Ferris hands, the city bends, living life like it never ends. ATM bikes into the sky, Breakfast Club just getting by. Radical dreams and daring quests, back then we were all very best. In the 80s we will run, where every day is just pure fun. Goonies never say die, they remind. In those films we lose our minds.
Well, welcome in 80s Flick Flashback fans. I'm Tim Williams, the creator and host of the 80s Flick Flashback Podcast. We are so excited to have you with us. If you enjoy the show, please leave us a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts. And don't forget to follow or subscribe so you never miss an episode. We want to hear from you. Connect with us on Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, and YouTube. And if you're feeling generous, you can support the podcast at buymeacoffee.com. Every little bit helps keep the show going. And don't forget to visit 80sflickflashback.com and our TeePublic store for more awesome 80s Flick Flashback merch and original designs. Well, let's welcome back two of your favorite guest co-hosts. Together, they bring warmth, wisdom, and a touch of humor. Let's meet the podcast co-host. I don't know why that's in there. It's great to have Ben Carpenter back on the show, bringing his insightful and reflective approach, much like a steady anchor in our discussion. Welcome back, Ben.
Oh, well, thank you. What a nice introduction there.
Yes, the steady anchor. And bringing her infectious energy and vibrant personality back to the podcast is the delightful Bethany Wells, known for her ability to uncover the silver linings in life with her boundless curiosity. How you doing, Bethany?
Oh, you old poop. I'm just fine.
My wife has been calling me that all day.
It's so good.
I almost, I'm glad you're there because I normally do like a quote at the end. And I was like, yeah. I should have Bethany I should do like the, somebody's at the door and you go, it's me, you old poop.
You old poop.
But thanks for that. That was on my list of favorite lines. So glad we got that one done early. So we're talking about On Golden Pond, which, as I was telling Ben before we started recording, Bethany has wanted to do this episode since season 1. So it only took us 5 years. We finally got here, and glad we did.
When we were talking about 9 to 5, I think is when it first got brought up.
Yeah, because you had Jane Fonda and Dabney Coleman. And then we talked about it again during Still Magnolias, which is understandable. These are kind of very complementary to each other.
Vibes.
Yeah.
I have a type when it comes to movies, sad and funny.
Yeah, I don't think we talked about this one on Say Anything, but it doesn't mention on all of them. So
we can go back and retcon it. Just try to find some way to shoehorn it in there.
So, but yes, this is a movie that I'm excited to talk about. And this was a first time watch for me, and we'll get into that. But Ben, we'll start with you. When did you see On Golden Pond for the first time?
I don't believe I saw it in the theater. I was pretty young. I guess I was 8 or 9 when this came out, and I do remember watching it. Oddly, like a lot for the age I was. I watched it a lot on. I think it was on HBO.
It was, it was,
and I just, I saw it probably dozens of times. I think mainly because the Henry Fonda and Katharine Hepburn, they both have aspects that reminded me of my grandparents.
Okay.
And I think that's what attracted me to the movie and why I enjoyed it so much as a kid. But I watched it a lot on HBO.
Yeah. What about you, Bethany? First time watch?
So I do have a very vague memory. Obviously, I mean, the movie came out before I was born.
Right.
So I didn't see it when it was in theaters. My memory of it, as I was at my Aunt Tammy and Valdosta's house, and it was on, and we were all watching it together. And I just remembered, I don't know, I was very young. So like I was probably 7 or 8 years old. And I just have this memory of finding it just so charming and just being intrigued by it, which is so weird. Like watching it as an adult now, like there are things in it where, I don't know, certain themes of it hit me in a way that there's no way I appreciated it as a 7 or 8 year old.
Exactly.
I think maybe what I found interesting or the most interesting was just this kid who was allowed to say cuss words.
Yeah.
And hang out with this old man and like have fun on a lake with him is I think my big takeaway from the movie.
Right.
When I was that age, but it's just charming. It's lovely and it's charming.
Yeah, I guess, as I said, this was I'm pretty sure this was the first time I watched it. There were a few scenes that seemed vaguely familiar, but I know we had HBO when I was a kid, which looking back at with the movies that we've covered and looking through a list, we probably had HBO around 82, 83. So, but I remember when this was going to premiere on HBO and they ran the commercials for it all the time, but it had just won, Academy Awards. It was a huge box office hit. So it was very heavily advertised, but I remember as a kid, and I was probably a little younger. I think Ben maybe a year or two older than me, but not for throwing an age out here, but
okay. Just a number.
Yeah. So definitely when I remember seeing the commercials for it, I was like, old people movie. Like it was just like not what I was looking to watch. And, I didn't know who Henry Fonda was or who, Katharine Hepburn was. Those were big names then that I had no point of reference for. And of course, later knowing Jane Fonda probably from 9 to 5 was probably the first movie I saw her in. But I remember it being a big deal of the two of them in a movie together. Even as a young kid and knowing about the movie as I got older, that's what I remembered about the movie it was the two of them together. And that I vaguely remember that it was kind of a parallel of their lives, of they were kind of an estranged father and daughter. And maybe that was something my parents had told me when I asked about it. But yeah, that's what I remember about it from being on HBO. But like I said, I might have watched bits and pieces if it was on. That's why I may remember certain parts of it. Or it could have been one that we watched as a family, and I probably wasn't as engaged with it as a kid, but I did watch it with being in the same room while it was on. There's a few movies I have of that where it's like I remember being in the living room with it being on, but I couldn't tell you anything about it, anything that happened in it. So, but yeah, so how long has it been since you rewatched it before rewatching it for the podcast? I'll let Bethany go first on this one since she looks like she can't figure that out.
since I don't have an answer. No, I think it's been a few years since I've seen it. I have it on DVD. but our DVDs live in the basement. And so if it's not like in hand, I'm not always quick to remember to go watch it. But I feel like it's been in the last decade or so.
Okay. What about you, Ben?
Yeah, not me. I don't, like I said, I watched this a ton in the early 80s, and then I don't think I've seen it since. And honestly, like what you said, it's totally different experience watching it at age 52 than at 8 or 9. And yeah, so there was, I really just remembered a few, like I didn't remember anything about it going into it, and then watching it I was like, oh yeah, okay, this feels familiar, this scene, I remember this now. But yeah, it was interesting to see it again after decades.
Yeah, I think one thing that stuck out to me was the music. I must have heard that theme a lot, because it felt so familiar. Even though I can't tell you the last time I heard it, but it had to have been something that was played a lot, either on TV or
during all those commercials.
Yeah, or it's been used in other things that I didn't know that's what it was from. But it was like this tune just sounds so familiar. So that was one thing that kind of caught me off guard watching it today. Was like, this theme is like it's embedded in my psyche, but I can't tell you where I'd heard it before. So that was the interesting part. But but I do remember, like, the one line I do remember that they showed so many times in the commercial was the, you're my knight in shining armor, line, which was really good. So, but yeah, as soon as she said that line, I was like, nostalgia bells went off, like ding, 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 ding. I know that line, So. All right, well, let's jump into story, origin, and pre-production. There really wasn't a whole lot on this one, which was, kind of interesting with it being such a, as big of a movie as at the time. But here's what I've got. Ernest Thompson wrote the stage play on Golden Pond at the age of 28. While he had been able to support himself as a working actor, he had gone a year without landing any work. The dry spell allowed him to pursue his interest in writing. Although he can't say exactly what inspired the play, he credits his boyhood summer lake trips to Maine with his family as a source of special memories. Through a series of lucky opportunities, On Golden Pond was produced off-Broadway in 1978. It was published the following year by Dramatist Play Service. In 1979, it won the Broadway Drama Guild's Best Play Award, and in 1980, Jane Fonda saw it performed in Los Angeles. Sure that she had finally found the right script to give her the chance to act with her father, Henry Fonda, she bought the film rights and hired Thompson to adapt it. She said, "I could hear my father saying those words." She called her father, who at first balked because he felt the part was too small for her. But Jane was excited about this golden opportunity to bridge the emotional gap that had separated them. Their relationship had always been strained. He had a lifelong reputation of being distant and cold, and Jane fiercely independent and no stranger to controversy. She realized time was running out. It had been her lifelong dream to work with him on film, and she thought the role might earn the elusive Oscar for him. Her production company quickly raised the funds, and shooting started quickly thereafter. So this was really a passion project for her. But I didn't know that it would, of course, I didn't know much about it, but I didn't know it was based on a play. But watching it, it definitely has that.
It feels like it.
That dialogue,
especially at the beginning. Yeah. Stage, like you can just picture the cabin being on a stage.
And I think I read that Katharine Hepburn was in one of the stage productions of it as well. So
wow.
She was already pretty well established in the role. So for sure. But yeah, so that's really all I've got as far as pre-production. One of the things that I had heard was that she had been actively looking for a movie that her father and her brother could win an Oscar for. Right.
And she realized that her father was running out of time. And so she read this and she was like, well, there's not a part for my brother, but my dad for sure.
Yeah, I did read in one, not in all the research, but in one thing, it did talk about how when she got it, she wanted a part for her brother as well, but they couldn't find a way to fit him in any kind of substantial role. So
not without it being weird.
Yeah, exactly. They talked about that, I don't want her to play the fiancé. That would just be too, not weird, not good. Yeah. I was even surprised by how small the cast was, because when we're about to jump into casting, and We'll be done with that in about 5 minutes. I'm just kidding.
Right.
Which again is like kind of
What's a
makes
play?
you go like, oh yeah, that is a play.
Yeah.
Because there's really 4 people in it. 5 or 6.
4.5. you
Yeah.
know, because I mean, even Bill Senior is there at the beginning, and that's pretty much it.
Mhm.
He has a pretty
Yeah.
small role, and even her role, Jane Fonda's role, is minimal
Pretty
as well.
small.
The 80s Flick Flashback Podcast will return after these messages.
Are you a fan of movies and TV shows inspired by comics? Ready for a podcast that dives deep into the thrilling world of adaptations? Well, look no further. Welcome to Moving Panels, the podcast where we discuss movies and TV shows based on, inspired by, and adapted from the world of comic books. This is your go-to podcast for all things comics on screen. I'm your host, Laramie Wells, and every Monday we explore the dynamic universe where ink meets action. We break down the classics, reveal hidden gems, and uncover the creative process behind your favorite adaptations. Subscribe to Moving Panels now on your favorite podcast platform and join us on this epic journey through the pages of comics and onto the big screen. Remember, new episodes drop every Monday. Don't miss out. Moving Panels, where every panel has a story and every adaptation is a blockbuster. Subscribe today, and I'll see you on the other side of the page.
Hey there, fellow 80s movie aficionados. Are you ready to embark on a nostalgia-filled journey to the greatest era of cinema? Then look no further than the Retro Life for You 80s Movie Podcast. Join us every week as we rewind the VHS tapes, dust off those Betamax classics, and dive headfirst into the neon-soaked, totally tubular world of the 1980s movies. From the Brat Pack to action heroes, we've got it all covered. Breakfast Club, Ghostbusters, E.T. and Indiana Jones, and more. It's like a trip in Doc Brown's time machine, but without the DeLorean. So whether you're a die-hard 80s film buff or just curious about the cinematic gems of the past, Retro Life for You is your ticket to the ultimate movie time warp. Follow us on Instagram and Facebook at Retro Life for You, and we can be found anywhere you listen to your podcast, as well as on our website, www.retrolife4u.com.
Uh-oh, the last cookie.
You can get a new box of cookies in as fast as an hour with Walmart Express Delivery.
Are you my guilty self-conscience?
No, I'm the voice offering you promo code EXPRESS for free delivery on your first order.
Hey, who ate my cookies?
You mean, these cookies?
Order now. Welcome to your Walmart. Promotion valid for first express delivery order. $50 minimum subject to availability. Restrictions apply.
I can say to my new Samsung Galaxy S25 Ultra, hey, find a keto-friendly restaurant nearby and text it to Beth and Steve. And it does, without me lifting a finger. So I can get in more squats anywhere I can. 1, 2, 3.
Will that be cash or credit?
Credit. 4.
Galaxy S25 Ultra, the AI companion that does the heavy lifting so you can do you. Get yours at Samsung.com. Compatible with select apps. Requires Google Gemini account. Results may vary based on input. Check responses for accuracy.
All right, well, let's jump into casting. So, despite their many common acquaintances and long careers in show business, Henry Fonda and Katharine Hepburn not only had never worked together, but had never met until actually working on the film, which I thought was fascinating.
That's pretty wild for that time period. They were both so prolific. It's kind of surprising.
Yeah, but as we about to talk about Katharine Hepburn, she was kind of known to be not really in the Hollywood. You know, she kind of distanced herself from
pretty
the Hollywood.
reclusive.
Yeah, so I could see how she wasn't at the parties or the award shows as much to be kind of, rub elbows with people like that. So let's talk about Miss Hepburn as Ethel. After graduating, she began landing small Broadway roles, gaining attention for Art and Mrs. Bottle in 1931. Her big break came in A Warrior's Husband in 1932, leading to film offers and a contract with RKO after the success of A Bill of Divorcement in 1932. She won her first Academy Award for Morning Glory in 1933 and starred in the successful movie Little Women, also an adaptation, in 1933. However, her off-screen behavior, included wearing slacks and avoiding interviews, led to criticism. After a string of flops from 1935 to 38, she returned to Broadway with The Philadelphia Story in 1938, a hit that allowed her to return to Hollywood on her terms, resulting in the successful film of the same name in 1940 and her third Oscar nomination. She starred alongside Spencer Tracy in several films, including Adam's Rib in 1949, while receiving further nominations for roles in The African Queen in 1951 and Guess Who's Coming to Dinner in 1967, the latter earning her a second Oscar win. In the 70s, she shifted to made-for-TV films and appeared occasionally in features like On Golden Pond, as we're talking about here, which garnered her 12th Oscar nomination and 4th win. After writing her autobiography in 1991, her last film was Love Affair in 1994. She retired in the mid-90s and passed away at the age of 96 in Old Saybrook, Connecticut. So, yeah.
She is a fascinating human being. Like,
yes.
There's so much about her that I think we'll never know because she was pretty private, but like the stuff we do know about her is just really cool.
I'm not really familiar with her too much as a person. Now I'm interested to learn what you're talking about. But I did when I first met my wife, she was really into those old Tracy and Hepburn movies, and we watched them all.
I remember, I would say the only Katharine Hepburn film that I probably was familiar with, my grandfather really liked The African Queen, and he would watch that. Like if it was on TV, he'd have it. And I think when we introduced him to the VCR, modern technology VCR in the mid to late 80s, that was one. I remember us going to the video store and renting Gone with the Wind and The African Queen. I was like, 2 movies I fell asleep on, but as a young kid.
Those are that you could watch those 2 movies, and by the time you finished both of them, they were due back at the video store. You might actually be late.
Yeah, absolutely. So, and I remember like my grandfather, favorite memories of him was watching. I think we started Gone with the Wind at like probably 7 or 8 o'clock at night, and of course the movie's like 3.5 hours long. And he was like sitting on the edge of his chair, and he was like, I just wanted to say, frankly, my dear, I don't give a, and so I can go to bed. So, anyway, good memories. So, but yes, that's something that I really would have recognized her from. I've probably seen someone like I've seen Little Women. I've seen
Guess Who's Coming to Dinner.
Guess Who's Coming to Dinner, and the Philadelphia Story. So there's some that I've seen since then, but definitely I haven't watched Adam's Rib. I've heard good things about that one too, but I've never seen one. So yeah,
she's just got such good comedic timing. She's just very endearing and charming, but also what I really love about her is she's very, especially in her like older stuff, is she's so groundbreaking of being like a very take charge person.
Right.
And that kind of played into the, she wore pants. Like I was telling Ruby while we were watching
pants. Yeah.
She did. Like that was a big deal.
Oh yeah.
Like, Philadelphia Story, her walking around with pants on was a huge, like groundbreaking thing because women didn't wear pants. And she did it unapologetically. Unapologetically.
Words are hard. Trust me, I know.
They really are. But and then she was famous for having the affair with Spencer Tracy. But they had an affair for years, but he was Catholic and married and refused to get divorced.
Right.
So it just continued. It was a very public affair. Like everybody knew it was happening, but that's just what it was. And she dated Howard Hughes.
Yeah.
For a little while, and
I remember that from the movie The Aviator. So I do. I get most of my history lessons from movies. So whether that's right or not.
She also, this is all rumored, but it was rumored she had affairs with women as well. So
I could see that. I'm not saying because of the pants. That would be the thought in that at that time was, well, if she wants to wear pants, she obviously loves women.
Well, specifically, like while she was dating Howard Hughes, she lived with another woman.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, I don't want to get too blue on your podcast, but there were certain things that Howard Hughes was known for. And one of those things was not being able to perform.
Okay.
And she had a very long relationship with a woman that she lived with, and they were roommates. And I'll leave it at that.
All right.
It's never been confirmed.
Yeah. Stay tuned for our side project with Bethany and I. We'll call it She Wears Pants. We're covering movies. She's covering movies from the 30s and 40s, and
it'll be Katharine Hepburn movies, basically.
The amazing women that made them. So yeah, that'll be a fun side project. So coming to a podcast platform near you. So
I love old Hollywood stuff. So like, if you let me talk too long, I will.
No, it's good. That's all stuff that I didn't have in my notes, but I did. I mean, honestly, what I had to like, simplify because it was so much. I mean, no matter what bio I pulled up for Katharine Hepburn, they were all like 6 or 7 paragraphs. It was like, how do you condense this? Like, there's so much fascinating stuff in there. It's like, okay, I got to make it a little shorter. Granted, we're going to talk about 4 cast members or 5. So it's not Christmas Vacation where we'll take as long as the movie lasts to go through the cast.
But I did also hear that when Jane Fonda approached her about being in this movie, Jane Fonda just looked at, or Katharine Hepburn looked at her and says, "I don't like you." But they grew to have a pretty good relationship. Good. She was from what I heard, she like took on a role of an overbearing mother, which is something Jane Fonda never had.
Yeah.
So it was an interesting dynamic between the two of them.
Yeah. I didn't read as many of those stories. There were a lot when I was reading research there was a lot about, Jane Fonda talks about her relationship with Katharine Hepburn. And I was like, there's so much about her and her father already. I'm like, I didn't want to go down that road. But there were some stories that I read about other things that she was there rooting her on in certain scenes and, being kind of the support. So I was like, I bet I could see that being, after we, for those that didn't miss our last episode on Hoosiers, everybody knows Gene Hackman is like one of the greatest actors of all time. And I was, sad to hear his passing. And then we decided to do an episode on Hoosiers and find out he was a complete jerk the whole time they made the movie. It's like, this doesn't work for me. It's supposed to be nice, but
that's why when you do the 90s podcast and we'll cover the Birdcage, and surely he got his act together by then. We'll find out.
Yeah, I'm sure. It was, but it doesn't take away from his work. Like I still appreciate him for what he brought to the role, even if he was, not the nicest person on set. But we talk about that on plenty of episodes where you find out people are not nice on set.
Next up, Henry Fonda.
We're getting there. Yeah, we're getting there.
Yeah.
So I thought this was cool. Barbara Stanwyck was actually on call to replace Hepburn in the event that she was unable to appear in the film because she had surgery just before production. Stanwyck had teamed with Henry Fonda in 3 earlier movies: The Lady Eve in 41, You Belong to Me in 41, and The Mad Miss Manton in 1938. So they had her kind of on standby, but they didn't need her. So before filming, Mark Rydell, the director, was warned by fellow director George Cukor. I'll say Cukor. Yeah, that Katharine Hepburn would test him to see how well she could work with a new director. On the first day of filming, she arrived at the set dressed in a black silk polo neck shirt, matching trousers, a beautiful brown suede tailor jacket, and a matching sort of Robin Hood style hat. And she declared herself, quote unquote, ready for filming. Rydell refused to shoot as she was not in the intended wardrobe. It caused an argument on the set for quite a while, causing an embarrassment to the crew until she relented and taken to her dressing room, which was a cabin by the lake. Nonetheless, the first day's filming managed to be completed. That was the test Hepburn had set on him, knowing that if he couldn't stand up to her or didn't know the material well, he risked being fired from the production. So that was her test. But I'm ready for my close-up. And he's like, no, you're not.
But you know what? Like, if he was a new director, working with people like Henry Fonda and Katharine Hepburn, you can get like in your headspace of like, no, these are legends. I can't tell them no.
Yeah.
Right.
And I mean, I'm not saying I agree with that tactic.
Yeah.
Right.
But also like, it's kind of I don't want to work with somebody who's not going to like lay down the law.
Right.
Yeah, not going to be assertive and someone who has a vision for the movie.
Yeah, like I said, knowing the material well, like your character is not going to wear that in any scene.
Right.
So why would you think that's going to be acceptable? But once again, is he willing to stand up to her and tell her we're not going to start filming until you get in your proper costume? So yeah,
I would die. Like if Katharine Hepburn said like, I'm ready for my close up, and she's in like ball gown, and I would just, okay.
Are you sure? You want to go sit and think about it for a minute? But yeah, that was kind of the same. Like the new director's got the same thing that happened on Hoosiers. I hate to keep going back to the last episode, but go back and listen to it. But you had a brand new screenwriter and a brand new director, and you've got Gene Hackman, who's already won an Academy Award or been nominated a few times. So he came in like, this is not what I thought it was going to be. And by the end, he was pleased with how the film turned out, but he just felt like these guys are in over their head. They don't know what they're doing. But it all worked out anyway. So, All right, moving right along to Henry Fonda as Norman. On screen and stage, Henry Fonda often portrayed everyman characters. He was born in Nebraska and made his Broadway debut and entered Hollywood with a film in 1935. He gained fame with roles in Jezebel in 1938, Jesse James in 1939, and Young Mr. Lincoln in 1939, earning an Academy Award nomination for his role in The Grapes of Wrath in 1940. He starred in the classic screwball comedy That Lady Eve in 1941, and after serving in World War II, appeared in acclaimed westerns like The Oxbow Incident in 1943 and My Darling Clementine in 1946. He took a 7-year break from films to focus on theater, returning in 1955 with Mr. Roberts. Notably, he played the title role in Hitchcock's The Wrong Man in 1956 and starred as Juror 8 in 12 Angry Men 1957, a film he co-produced, earning a BAFTA award. Yay, 12 Angry Men. Yay. So later, Fonda took on diverse roles, including a villain in Once Upon a Time in the West in 1968 and the lead in Yours, Mine, and Ours. He portrayed military figures in films like Battle of the Bulge in 1965 and Midway in 1976. And he won the Academy Award for Best Actor for his final role on Golden Pond, and he passed away 5 months later. So, yeah, this was his swan song film for sure. He was the patriarch of a family of actors, including daughter Jane, son Peter, granddaughter Bridget, and grandson Tony. In 1999, he was named the 6th greatest male screen legend by the American Film Institute.
What a movie to be like your last one.
Yeah.
I will always remember him as the second best performer as juror number 8.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Who was first? Don't do that. For those of you that don't know, we did a production of 12 Angry Jurors or 12 Angry Men a few months ago, and I played Juror 8 in that production. So there. Thank you. You were kind.
Excellent.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate it. All that I will say, and I said it to the cast as well, the most difficult production I've ever, not difficult as far as bad, but like the hardest, like lines to memorize and just, is being on stage for the entire play, no breaks. It was a challenge for sure, but the payoff was extraordinary. So it was one of my favorite movies and a role that I really wanted to do, and it turned out well. So don't get me emotional already. We're talking about something else.
It was a fantastic production. No, this is just like an appetizer to the emotions that are coming later.
Yeah. And those that don't know, Bethany's husband Laramie was the director of our production of 12 Angry Jurors. So yeah, so very good. So there was rumored. I saw 2 different accounts that Jimmy Stewart actually wanted to have the role, but wasn't able to get the rights before Jane Fonda did. And then there was another one saying that the producers wanted to give the role to him, but he declined. And I'm like, that seems like 2 very polar opposite stories. So, which part of the internet do you want to believe? But his name did come up, and I could see him as being another great actor to put in that role, but I don't think he
Yeah.
would have brought the same personality.
Yeah.
Like, I think, and not that I've seen a lot of Henry Fonda movies, but this role didn't make me think I'm watching Henry Fonda. I felt like I was watching Norman, where Jimmy Stewart has
Right.
such a certain, way of, it's like putting Christopher Walken in a movie. It's like, it's Christopher Walken. You just can't take the accent and same with Katharine Hepburn. I mean, she has such a distinct vocal style and delivery. So putting someone else in that role is not going to be the same. They make it their own. So, but I think he made that character what it was for sure. So
yeah, Jimmy Stewart just had such a strong on-screen and consistent on-screen persona through all of his movies that just doesn't fit with this. And even if he had played it well, it would have felt like, this is Jimmy Stewart playing curmudgeonly,
right.
Rather than like you said, I think Henry Fonda embodied it more.
I also feel like Henry Fonda, while not this is Henry Fonda playing Henry Fonda, that was his personality, in real life,
right?
Off screen that was the relationship he had with his daughter. It wasn't an easy relationship. It was very strained. They had to actively try to work with each other. And throughout filming, they had trouble where she was trying to reach out and make a connection with him, and he was actively resisting it. And you get that tension. You feel it.
Yeah.
Watching the two of them together.
All right, moving on to the daughter, Jane Fonda as Chelsea. We've talked about her as well, but we'll do a quick recap. She rose to prominence acting in the comedies Cat Ballou in 1965, Barefoot in the Park in 1967, one of Bethany's favorites, Barbarella in 1968, Fun with Dick and Jane in 77, The Electric Horseman in 79, and of course 9 to 5 in 1980. She established herself as a dramatic actress, winning 2 Academy Awards for Best Actress for her roles in the thriller Clute in 71, as well as Coming Home in 78. She was Oscar nominated for They Shoot Horses, Don't They in 69, Julia in 77, The China Syndrome in 79. She was nominated for On Golden Pond and The Morning After in 1986. After a 15-year hiatus, she returned to acting in Monster-in-Law in 2005 with J-Lo, Youth in 2015, and Our Souls at Night in 2017. Of course, my wife knows her most from Grace and Frankie on Netflix, which is
nice.
One of our favorite shows. During the production, I had to put this in here, Jane Fonda led early morning aerobics classes for the cast and crew. So if you did not grow up with a Jane Fonda workout as a kid, you don't know what you're missing. So she was, she was almost known more for that as 80s kids than anything else. Her career before that was a little before our time, but aerobics.
In the 80s, Jane Fonda in a leotard and leg warmers was just everywhere.
Yeah, exactly.
So she suffered from an eating disorder for a lot of her life. She was bulimic, and her starting those aerobics classes and getting really invested in that is she contributes that to her getting away from bulimia. And she, that's why she was such an advocate for it. It kind of played into her feminist ideals of just you can take control of your body, you can take control of this and feel good about yourself. And so that was where a lot of that came from.
Bethany is a well of knowledge this week. I love it.
I love old Hollywood.
We can tell. So, all right. And then a smaller role, but Doug McKeon played Billy Ray Jr. I didn't really recognize him, but he performed in the television series The Edge of Night. He acted in films Uncle Joe Shannon, for which he was nominated for a Golden Globe Award. He was also in Night Crossing and a little movie called Mischief. That's also an 80s movie. If you haven't seen it, it's pretty fun. It's with Kelly Preston is in it and Catherine Mary Stewart, but he's the main character in that. He looks he was older, of course, in Mischief, but yeah, it was kind of fun to see him in this as a much younger kid. But Anthony Michael Hall auditioned for the role, but didn't get it. So he went on to become Rusty instead, Griswold. And then the late, great Dabney Coleman as Dr. Bill Ray Sr. He was recognized for his roles portraying egomaniacal. Is that right? Egomaniacal?
Maniacal.
First one.
Yeah. All right, let's try that again. He was recognized for his roles portraying egomaniacal and unlikable characters and comedic performances. I'm going to stop putting words in my notes that I can't pronounce. That's going to be throughout
Who writes this stuff?
Yeah, no, who's get my script writer on the phone. Hello? Yeah, don't do that anymore. Okay. All right. Throughout his career, he appeared in over 175 films and TV programs and received awards for both comedic and dramatic performances. Notable films. Here we go. There's this. I can't fit them all, but here's our favorites: 9 to 5 in 80, Tootsie in 82, War Games 83, Cloak and Dagger in 84, one of my all-time favorites. You've Got Mail in 98. His significant TV roles included Mary Hartman from 76 to 77. He was a title character in Buffalo Bill in 83 to 84, The Slap Maxwell Story 87 to 88, and he was on the show The Guardian from 2001 to 2004. Later in his career, he portrayed Louis the Commodore Kaestner on Boardwalk Empire from 2011 to 2011. His final role was an appearance on Yellowstone in 2019. As a voice actor, he provided the voice of Principal Peter Prickly on Recess from 1997 to 2001, and in several movies based on the series. But yeah, always been a fan of Dabney Coleman.
Yeah.
Always been a
Loved
fan.
Recess. I didn't realize he was the principal. That's amazing.
Yeah. So, but yeah, Cloak and Dagger. That's when we were talking about before the podcast, before we started recording. One of those movies I can't find anywhere. Like I would love to watch Cloak and Dagger, and it was on. Yeah. And that was when it was on HBO all the time as a kid too. And I found it. Me and my wife watched it probably 8 or 9 years ago, but I don't remember like what it was on or how we found it. But it was only on for like a small amount of time. So somebody pulled that out of the archives. But yeah, Henry Thomas and Dabney Coleman, one of my favorites.
Yeah, I mean, this is a great example of why he was great. Because he's really on screen for 10 minutes. But he really he makes such a strong impression in those 10 minutes, and has gets a lot of laughs, and I mean, even physical comedy, which you didn't see him do a lot of in his career, but like when the boat is drifting away and he's like, what does someone do in this situation?
That is the funniest little bit, like, because at first you're kind of like, okay, what is up with this guy? Like, is he going to be kind of a jealous butthead?
Right.
Like, clearly. And then he does that little bit, and I'm just like, okay, he can kind of laugh at himself. That's fine.
Right.
All right, let's get into iconic favorite scenes. So here we go. When someone says on Golden Pond, what's the first scene that pops in your mind?
Only part that I remembered going into it was I remembered that there was something about an accident out on the lake. And so I knew that something like that was coming. And I mean, I rememred the banter between Hepburn and Henry Fonda, and the old "you old poop," and the kind of the way Martin Short's impression of Katharine Hepburn is mostly taken from her character in this movie.
Yes.
So I remembered little bits like that, but not a lot going into today.
I'm pretty sure that kind of like what Ben was saying, just the banter between Henry Fonda and Katharine Hepburn. And just, I think a scene that like really makes an impression is when he is like getting dressed for his birthday party. He's like, how do I look? And she goes, you look sexy. I'm just like, I love that so much, because I turned to Laramie at one point, like I think it was during that scene, and I was like, that's gonna be us, right? Like this is definitely us, because like when she says like, you're probably one of the best people in the planet, I'm just the only one that knows.
Right. Yeah, that's a good line. That was a good line.
And it's so like he's just so special, like their relationship and their dynamic, like when they're on the boat and they're looking at the loons. Anytime she sees the loons, It's just so precious to me. And then they're on the boat and they see the loons, and then the other boat comes and chases them off, and Henry Fonda flips them the bird, and then she does it. Don't do that.
Right.
She's like, you did it.
Right.
So funny.
Yeah. Yeah. It's established very, very early. Like they're jabbing at each other, but it's how they communicate. Like it's never mean spirited. It's just them. And they've been married so long, and me and my wife, we have those same conversations, and sometimes Hannah will be like, "What are y'all okay?" And we're like, "Oh, we're just picking at each other. It's not a big big deal." But definitely seeing that as when you get older. But the scene at the end, we're not going to spoilers, but if you listen to the podcast, we're going to spoil it. But when you think he's having the heart attack, and of course he probably is something going on. She gives him the medicine. And he's like, I feel better now. So just like, which I was kind of waiting for. It's like, he's going to pop up here in a second. Like, this isn't how the movie's going to end, is it? Like, please don't tell me the movie's going to end like this.
No. Although I'm sitting there the whole time going like, you still need to call the vet. You still need to go to the doctor.
Right.
Please still go to the doctor. If nitroglycerin fixed it, it's his heart. Go to the doctor. Go to the doctor, please.
Yeah. And then she's holding on to like, I love you so much. I love you. It's just like that,
I mean, I think it's the relationship that we all, hope we have at that age.
Yeah.
Like, yes, they're jabbing at each other, but it's always in a fun way. And, and they're like complimenting one another too. Like you said, it's like, you look sexy, it's
right.
And then what was it? He was doing something. It's like, why'd you do that? I was trying to turn you on. I'll never do that again. It's like, well, good. And then, oh gosh, the one moment, this made me laugh so hard when Jane Fonda's gotten there and she's like, oh, move that vase of flowers to the other side of the table. And he's like, why? He's like, just do what I asked you to say. Just do one time.
Right.
Oh, it was so good.
And he picks it up and spills the water all over.
Spills water all over the place.
I mentioned the line about the knight in shining armor. Like that if someone asked me about what would be iconic for me, it would be that line being spoken, because that was so emblazoned in my mind as a kid, because that was what they played on the commercials over and over and over again. So what about favorite scenes? Do you have a favorite scene? I'll go first on this one because I didn't want anybody else to take it. My all-time favorite scene, and there's good scene. I mean, it's a very good movie. I will say that. But my all-time, my all-time favorite scene is Norman and Billy Sr.'s first meeting conversation. Like the whole thing about, we want to, spend the night or sleep in the same room, and just that whole back and forth is, like I said, I laughed more than I thought I was going to watching this movie, and there were lots, and not just that scene, but other like little quips that they had. But that exchange with the two of them is just so well done, and just once again very much like written as a play. Like I could see that on stage, just killing, with a live audience. So, and the two of them just perfectly, perfectly timed and perfectly performed,
playing off one another.
Exactly. Just it worked so well. So that's by far my favorite scene, and there's other good scenes as well. So, but I'll let y'all know.
That tension between Dabney Coleman and Henry Fonda, of like Dabney Coleman's trying to be cool and be like, I'm pretty sure he's messing with me, but what if he's not?
Yeah.
And Henry Fonda just stays stoic the whole time, so he never knows, like, should I be laughing? It's that awkward moment when you first meet your partner's like parents of like, I want to make a good impression and I don't know what to do with you.
Right. Yeah, and he even makes the comment about, and your daughter told me about you, you like to play with people's heads, and she does that some too, like kind of throwing that back at him to kind of see what kind of reaction he's going to get. And he doesn't get the kind of reaction he expects, but but I love the first one. It was when he's like, so you're turning 80, huh? How does that feel? Like turning 40 twice or something.
Twice as bad as turning 40.
Twice as bad as turning 40, which I thought was a great line. So, and just that quick delivery and just, stone face delivery was perfect.
Yeah, I liked another line about getting old was when Billy Jr. says, man, you're really old, and he says, you should meet my father.
Yeah.
Oh, your father's still alive? No, but you should meet him.
Meet him.
That was a good one too.
Oh, that is good.
Yeah.
Oh man.
Yeah, I mean, I probably would have talked about the same scene too. Like watching it again today. That was probably my favorite scene. It's the sharpest writing, I think, in the movie. And it's just really funny, really well done.
Yeah. I do like the scene of them, of course, the boat accident in the Pergatory Cove where he goes over and then they're, Billy Ray Jr. jumps in to save him, and then they have to hang onto the rock, and then her going out to find him. Like that's a great scene as well. Just a, good little tension building scene. And I love the next day or I guess a couple days later, she's like, I'm going to the store. You guys okay? Like, yeah. And then they watch and they try to sneak out. And she's like, where are you going? And so that was good. It's like, I'm tired of playing on the, doing puzzles or whatever, playing games the last 4 days or whatever. So I will say, like, for a PG movie, there was a lot of cussing in this movie.
There's a lot of cussing in this movie.
So I was a little shocked by that in watching it today. I was like, wow, they really, they pushed, I say push the envelope. Man, it was, no F-bombs or anything, but just it was pretty strong, which I would probably see as a kid my age. My parents probably didn't want me to see it because there was that much. I remember my mom complaining about the language in Karate Kid when it came out. And so that kind of lets you know what kind of upbringing I had. But yeah, but at the same time, I watch RoboCop. I mean, I watched Terminator with my parents. So, violence, no problem, but don't you say those words. Anyway.
Well, as Norman says, it's a really good word.
Yeah.
It's a really good word.
You like that word a lot, don't you? Yeah, it's a really good word.
Yeah, it's a good word. I loved that scene because you don't know where he's gonna go with it.
Yeah.
Right.
When he points that out and he's like, it is a good word. And I think that is the moment when Billy Ray Jr. is just like, okay, maybe I can talk to this person.
Yeah. I think he went against the expectations of what Billy Ray expected him to be. He's probably heard the stories. He's just a grumpy old man. He's gonna make your life miserable. And then he kind of found out, like, well, he's not as bad as everybody made him out to be. Maybe there's something there. So, but yeah, I do like the, another. Go ahead. Sorry. Go ahead.
Oh no, go ahead.
I was gonna say another scene that I really liked. Was kind of somewhat cheesy or a little, expected. But when she does the backflip at the end,
that was actually the scene I was just about to talk about.
Oh, okay. All right. So we were thinking the same thing. So yeah. So go ahead.
Well, I was just saying, like, that moment, it's the moment before, and she's talking to Katharine Hepburn about how, she just wants to have that kind of connection with her dad. Why can't she have it? And she says, like, what are you waiting for?
Yeah.
He's 80 years old. What do you think is going to change?
Yeah. When do you expect that to start? Yeah.
Yeah. And so, like, she's just like, okay, I'm going to do it, which, probably many times throughout her life. She's tried to approach her dad and have a relationship with her dad and has been shut out or cut off, and it hasn't gone the way she wanted it to. And she's felt betrayed because she was being vulnerable. Like, you get all of that just in, like, the moments of her. Jane Fonda does such a great job in this movie. For as little as she is in it, she's like, you get so much. And then she finally tells him, like, I got married, and he has the reaction she wanted. Like the one that she told her mom, like, what's he going to do? Say, like, oh, I'm so proud. Good for you. It's like, he's not going to do that. He's not. Right. And she's like, try. And he does. He's genuinely happy for her. And he's excited because that means that Billy Ray Jr. is going to be in his life more. And then they do the backflip, and it's a good, like, closure moment. So I like that scene just because it does give some kind of closure. And then apparently a behind the scenes thing is that when they were filming it, like during rehearsals, Jane Fonda could cry just whenever. But then when they started filming, she couldn't cry anymore.
Yeah.
And so finally she just, like, reached out and touched her dad. And his reaction was so like he didn't know what to do. And it made her have the emotional reaction. And she was so impressed by his reaction. And then that's the scene that's the cut that's in the movie.
Yeah.
And it's just like he was clearly kind of like angry with her for doing something that they didn't rehearse, but held on to it and used that emotion for the scene. And then she started crying, and it was just, it is nice. It's a nice idea to think that one day a parent that you have a strained relationship with, there's still time. Like as long as they're here, there's time to build that relationship.
Yeah.
Yeah. That made, so I started watching this late this morning. My wife was in the room and my daughter was in the room, and I turned it on. I was like, I have to watch this for the podcast tonight. And, I didn't know if they were going to pay attention to it or not. About 5 or 10 minutes in, maybe not even that, my wife gets up and goes to get her glasses. That tells me, she's interested. Yeah,
she wants to be able to see this.
Right. That's her tell. Like some things I turn on, she just sits there and she's reading or whatever. She's not. But if she goes to get her glasses, I know she's starting to enjoy it. So and by the end, the backflip scene and everything, she had tears streaming down her face. So yeah. My daughter, on the other hand, I asked her, so what'd you think? And she said, oh, I wasn't paying attention. She sat in there the whole time.
Yeah. Ruby paid attention a little bit. She was in and out. She started reading the new Hunger Games book that just came out, which is excellent, by the way. And but she was paying attention, and like the scene where they get into the boat accident, she was genuinely worried, and she was just like, and I just had to turn to her because I can't like let it get
right.
And I was like, he does not die in this movie.
Like in the Princess Bride.
Yeah.
You seem concerned.
Right.
He's gonna be okay.
They do not die in this movie.
The 80s Flick Flashback Podcast will return after these messages.
What seems to be the problem, pal?
There's just so much pain in the world, so many issues. I don't think I can bear it.
Hell, friendo, it sounds like you could use a dose of pop culture roulette.
Pop culture roulette? What's that? Some sort of pop culture themed podcast or something?
That's right, sonny boy. When hope seems far, dive into some PCR.
But I already get my entertainment news from Variety.
Huh, that's pretty good. If you're a chucklehead, PCR gives you news you need, condensed, unfiltered, and raw, from 3 nerds who know a little something about something.
Wow, okay, sign me up.
That's the spirit. Pop Culture Roulette. New episodes every Monday, available on all major podcast directories.
Hear that? It's SpringFest savings calling your name, only at Lowe's. Right now, get a free Select Ego 56-volt battery when you buy a Select Ego trimmer, blower, or mower. Plus, get your choice of any 2 bags of Miracle-Gro organic soil mix for only $16. Shop these can't-miss deals in-store or online today. Lowe's, we help, you save. Valid through 4/2. Selection varies by location. While supplies last. Excludes Hawaii.
Pepsid Complete knows that food is one of the best parts of game day. That is, until heartburn strikes. Thankfully, just 1 chewable tablet of Pepsid Complete provides dual-action heartburn relief with an antacid that starts working instantly and an acid reducer that lasts all day. So you can stay focused on that second helping of chili without worrying about heartburn. All day based on 8-hour symptom relief studies during the day. Use product only as directed.
All right, well, let's jump into some other trivia, maybe make us think about some other scenes as well. So, did you know the brown fedora worn by Henry Fonda belonged to Spencer Tracy and was given to Fonda by Katharine Hepburn on the first day on the set? Overwhelmed by the gesture, Fonda painted a still life watercolor of the 3 hats he wore in the film and gave the original to Hepburn as a gift. He had 200 lithographs made of the painting and sent one to every person who worked on the film. Each copy was numbered and personally signed by Fonda, thanking each person by name. In her autobiography, Hepburn wrote that she gave the painting to screenwriter Ernest Thompson after Fonda's death. She found the painting to be a sad reminder of him and of Spencer Tracy.
Oh, now I'm gonna cry again.
Yeah, I know. I'm like, you can handwrite a painting to all these people that you worked on a movie with, but you can't have a conversation with your daughter anyway. So
Right.
so
Right.
But once again, shows that he was a professional, and that's what, when it came to movie making, that was what he did. When it was home, it was a different story. So I read the story that you talked about, Bethany, about her, not being able to cry, and the one I saw said, like, when she was having the issue, she couldn't look at Henry Fonda because she was afraid he was gonna be like, oh, here we go.
Disappointed and
can't even do the scene without, and she turned and realized that Hepburn was in the bushes off site, and she was the only person that could see her. And she was kind of giving her, like, this, gesture, like, come on, you can do it. Don't give up. Don't lose this scene or whatever. So I thought that was really, really cool. But to kind of echo what you had said during that scene, Jane Fonda told the following story about it. She said, I reached out and placed my hand on his arm as I said, I want to be your friend. What I saw amazed me. For a millisecond, he was caught off guard. He seemed angry. Even, this isn't what we rehearsed. Then the emotions hit him. Tears came to his eyes. Then anger again as he tensed up and looked away. I loved him so much just then. It amazed me what a great actor he was in spite of his fear of spontaneity and real emotions. As you mentioned, that take appears in the film. So I just thought that was, and you can see it. The bad thing for me is, like, I read this before I saw the scene. I try not to do my notes before I watch it. When it came to that scene, I expected it to be longer. And not that it needs to be longer, but it's enough there. Like, it does what it needs to do without milking it, for lack of a better term. Like, but it's there. Like, you see the emotion hit him at that moment, and it looks genuine. And kind of knowing the story behind it is, like, I almost feel like it was his, like, I don't want to have this reaction, but I'm having this reaction. And this reaction I need to have for this part, but I don't want to have it. And, like, that kind of inner struggle he's having in that moment comes through. So
I will say, if I have a criticism,
no, that's not allowed. I'm just kidding.
or something that yes, I'm sorry, Bethany. I'm sorry.
Them's fighting words.
Careful.
To me,
tread lightly.
The whole father-daughter storyline felt rushed and sort of clipped. And
yeah, I can see that.
Without the context of
real life.
This is Jane Fonda's real dad, and they really had a strained relationship. Like that, and knowing that, yes, I get how that can kind of be, like, sort of the basis to make it work. And, and it's just for me, because, like I said, my wife, that's what made her cry at the end. And she has a great relationship with her dad. So it's not really about that. It's just, it hit her. And it to me, like, there's so much else about this movie that does work on a higher level. To me, that just felt a little rushed. But yeah, like I said, it's if you have that sort of context and those kinds of stories, that really sort of elevates it a little bit.
Not that this movie needs me to defend it, but I will anyways. I do feel like, I don't feel like it was like, and now it's all better. It's like, now they're finally, he is acknowledging that he needs to open the door. She has made a point to open the door, and now they are going to start having a conversation. Like, this is not a button, this is the end. This is the start, which is why I think it's important that he didn't die at the end.
Right.
Like, they just started. Like, they are just now going to start working on it. And so, I get what you're saying, of, like, it seems like it kind of wanted to brush over everything and seem like everything was fine now. But I kind of like to look at it as they're both putting down their gauntlets, and they're going to start working towards a better relationship.
Maybe it was her calling him dad that felt a little bit rushed and unearned to me. Like, it felt a little bit like, that's a jump. Like, she's probably been calling him Norman for 30 years.
Right.
Yeah. But so maybe without that,
I could see that too.
Yeah. Good points.
Yeah. Point, counterpoint. I like
that. There you go. Yeah. Stay tuned
Second
next
counterpoint,
week.
catch these hands.
Yeah. Stay tuned next week when we bring him another thing to disagree on. I was kidding. So this is fun. This is a little bit longer, but the house used in the film was leased from a New York physician and was modified significantly for the shoot. An entire second floor was added as a balcony over the main living area at the request of the production designer. After the shoot, the production company was contractually obligated to return the house to its original state, but the owner liked the renovations so much that he elected to keep the house the way it was and asked the crew not to dismantle the second story. A gazebo and a small boathouse were also relocated during the shoot. The set was dressed with personal items supplied by the Fondas and Katharine Hepburn, including a photograph of young Hepburn standing beside a plane during flight training and a picture of Henry Fonda in his youth examining model airplanes with his friend, actor Jimmy Stewart. So they did turn it into like a little touristy place that you can go to. And I did see a lot of articles about, go there and they have like a little tour on the lake and show you the different filming sites for the movie. So
where maybe you said maybe I missed it. Where is it again? Where is the filming?
New Hampshire, right?
Yeah, I actually filmed in New Hampshire. I think it's set in Maine, but it was in New Hampshire. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
So one reason I will plan a trip to New Hampshire
just for that.
Just for that.
Yeah. The Pergatory Cove scene was shot in late September. To keep warm in the cold water, both Doug McKeon and Henry Fonda had to wear wetsuits under their clothes, but the water level was so low that they could have easily stood up and been only knee-deep in the lake, which I thought was kind of funny.
That's a relief.
Yeah. Katharine Hepburn was supposed to have a stunt double perform her dive-in scene, but she insisted on doing it herself, and she dove into the frigid water without a wetsuit. Apparently, Hepburn was familiar with swimming in cold waters on the eastern coast of the USA and regularly showered in cold water. So,
yeah, when she dove off the boat, I was like, "What are you doing? Now there's 3 people in the water."
Yeah. That's like, what are you gonna do? You go someone back? Yeah.
She's such a character.
Yeah, exactly. And then she's struggling to get on the rock. I'm like, oh God, don't all 3 of them go down?
Now they're all gonna drown.
Right.
And you got that one post office guy who's
right.
He's gonna save them all now.
Right. Last 2 little things. The rest will be in the show notes. So, about the Oscars, we mentioned this Oscar nominated, and it did win. So Henry Fonda and Jane Fonda were the first parent and child to receive Academy Award acting nominations for the same film. This was for Best Actor and Best Supporting Actress, respectively. The only other time that this has happened was when Diane Ladd and Laura Dern were both later Oscar nominated for Rambling Rose in 1991. On Golden Pond is also the only time that a film's 2 top-billed lead actors playing a married couple, namely Henry Fonda and Katharine Hepburn, won Academy Awards for Best Actor and Best Actress. Jane Fonda lost her nomination to Maureen Stapleton for her role in Reds, but both Katharine Hepburn and Henry Fonda won. Her 4th, his 1st. Jane Fonda accepted the statuette on behalf of her father, who was too ill to leave home. An hour later, she was by his bedside with her family. In typical Fonda fashion, he simply whispered, "It was in the wind." Jane still calls that night the happiest moment of my life. Henry Fonda died 5 months later. In her autobiography, she concludes, "I was grateful for having had On Golden Pond with him and that I managed to tell him I loved him before it was too late. I could feel myself making peace with the fact that though he hadn't given me all I needed from him, he'd still given me plenty." And Bethany's crying. And we've made it, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for tuning in. We got Bethany in tears.
We did it.
Thanks for listening, everybody. We'll see you next week.
Next challenge, make me cry.
Yeah. There you go. Challenge accepted. Let's see. This is Spinal Tap. Here we go.
Not hard to make me cry.
I can make Ben cry from laughing. We'll try that. So. But I'll make this last little trivia note. On Golden Pond was remade as a stage musical and as a 2001 CBS TV movie starring Julie Andrews and Christopher Plummer. A Broadway revival of the original play opened in 2005 at the Court Theater, starring Leslie Uggams and James Earl Jones, though it closed early due to Jones coming down with pneumonia. So I did read that it has been done with white and black casts and still works on both, which I think is great. So, but yeah, I don't know about the musical. That might be a step too far, but I do want to go watch the TV movie now. I didn't realize it was a TV movie as well. So, All right. Box office on Golden Pond was Universal's big American Christmas release in the USA for 1981, though the film was also distributed in some territories by 20th Century Fox. Conan the Barbarian was supposed to have the Yuletide time slot instead, but when Universal deemed the film too violent for a Christmas release, it was pushed back for a later release in 1982. I think that's hilarious because we'd actually planned to record Conan the Barbarian the same week, but it got pushed. So I thought that was hilarious.
That is funny.
Didn't know that at the time. But on Golden Pond opened as a limited release in just 2 theaters on December 4th, 1981.
That is limited.
And it came in second behind Reds, which opened in 396 theaters the same weekend.
That's impressive.
Yeah. It remained in the top 10 through December and into January at still just 2 theaters when it got a wide release on January 22nd. It landed at number 2, but took the top spot the following week, and it stayed number 1 for 6 weeks.
Aww.
It ended up being the second highest box office winner of 1981 behind Raiders of the Lost Ark.
Well, if you got to lose to something.
Yeah, I mean, hey, so. And I didn't even mention the movie that was number 1, January 22nd, because it was a movie I've never heard of before. So I was like, it's not even worth, like, what was it? Whose Life Is It Anyway? Has anybody heard of that one? I didn't even look.
Yeah.
Something's familiar about it.
Okay.
That does sound familiar, but I would need more.
Yeah, it's like, I couldn't tell you who was in it or
Whose
anything like
Life
that.
Is It Anyway?
Yeah.
Sounds so familiar. Ben and I both pull up IMDb.
Yep.
What I thought was, whose line is it anyway? That was around back then. But yeah. Ben's looking it up.
Richard
Anybody
Dreyfuss. Yeah.
Oh, Dreyfuss. Okay.
Oh, yeah. Yep. I have seen this.
Okay. All right.
It's been a long time, but yeah, I remember this movie.
Is it worth adding to the list?
I don't know. 7.3 on IMDb.
I would think if we all
good.
had to look it up on IMDb, it's probably not going to do too well in the ratings or, for the podcast, but
got a 70% on Rotten Tomatoes.
Yeah.
Based on 10 reviews.
All right, well, it's now time for the rewatchability and nostalgia meter, where we take a look at how well this 80s flick holds up today. The all-new rewatchability and nostalgia meter is our way of measuring how enjoyable a movie is for repeat viewings, along with waves of nostalgia it brings. Here's how it works. It's a 1 to 10 scale. Any number between 1 and 10 will do, but here are a few parameters to help you decide. Down at the bottom of number 1, I saw it once and that was enough. And right in the middle of number 5 is a good rewatch every couple of years. And the rare to get number 10, highly rewatchable and full of nostalgia. So you can give us any number between 1 and 10, but Bethany, we'll start with you because I kind of know where this is going to go.
Oh, no.
Where does Golden Pond land for you on your rewatchability nostalgia meter?
It is such a charming movie, and I walk away from it. I've felt all of the emotions that a person can feel while watching a movie, it feels like. And I do have a sort of nostalgia to it. And it makes me feel so good after I've finished watching it. So I'm going to rate it really high. And I'm going to give it a 9.7.
Wow. I think that's the highest rating we've gotten so far.
I'm very biased. But
I see. That's fine. It's your honest opinion. Yeah. There is no wrong answer.
It holds a very special place in my heart. And just watching it again today, it just touched a lot of feelings, and it made me feel good. So,
yeah.
And like I said, there were multiple times where I turned to Laramie and I said, "This will be us." Like
you're not asking anymore. You're telling him, right?
It already kind of is us. It's just eventually we're going to be old and it'll be cute. Right now, it's just annoying.
Yeah. I mean, be honest. I mean, that's why I kind of got away from this critics ratings and stuff, because it's a rewatchable nostalgia. But just like it's where it lands for you, and it's going to land for everybody a little different, and that's okay. So, what about you, Ben? Where does it land for you?
Well, I would say, other than the one criticism I already made, and the fact that the music, a couple times I felt like, okay, the music doesn't really need to be trying so hard to make me feel what the music is telling me to feel. But that's really more of just of the time. That just sort of dates it. Like that was the way movies used to be. But other than that, dating it, like it really felt like
holds up.
It very much holds up. The acting and the writing, especially. Like I did not, watching it as an 8-year-old or whatever, I didn't pick up on how crisp the writing was and the back and forth banter and just like the great one-liners that they gave to Henry Fonda. And so, you know, if it's a rewatchability rating, I haven't seen it in decades, but I would watch it again, like tomorrow, like if with my son or somebody else who, you know, hasn't seen it before. I would sit down and watch it again. So I'll give it a 8.23.
Okay, all right.
8.23.
Yeah. Okay.
I'm getting
very specific.
The decimal points are winning today. I like it. Yeah. So for me, it's going to be a little lower, only because of the nostalgia part. Because this isn't something I watched as a kid. There were a few nostalgia bells, like the soundtrack and the Shining Armor line. But rewatchability, I could see watching this again, and probably on a maybe not frequent basis, but I would probably want to watch this every couple of years, kind of a thing. So I'm going to put mine more like a 6.5, which I think is still. That's still good. So
how dare you?
Oh, I'm blasted by my own co-host. Well, it's great to have Bethany and Ben here for the last time. No, I'm just kidding. Thank you for tuning in for their final performance. I'm just kidding. No, but I mean that I would say that for being the first time watch. Like if I watch this again in a couple of weeks or next month, it'll probably go higher because the nostalgia will probably peak up more. But it's hard. It's hard on these that are first time watches to kind of grade it in that way because it doesn't have those nostalgia that really kind of bumps the numbers up, I think, a lot more. So,
okay, but the second time you watch it, you're going to catch the metaphor with the loons.
Yes, the loons.
Yes, the loons, because they see the loons. The loons are a couple. They're a married couple, and then when they go to the cove of danger that I can't think of, Pergatory
Cove. Yeah.
He finds the dead one. And so his thought, he doesn't say it, but he's thinking, that's me. And then now my other loon, Katharine Hepburn, is alone. But then at the end of the movie, they're together again.
Yeah.
Okay,
and
watch out. He's going to cry again.
Don't worry. That's my superpower. I'm always crying.
Yeah, and then he makes the comment about the third one went to California or something. Yeah, so that worked. Yeah. And there we win again. All right. Well, thank you guys so much.
Hard win.
Yeah. Well, thank y'all so much for being a part of this episode. Always a pleasure to have both of you on the show. So thank you, Bethany, so much for being a part. Always a pleasure. Thanks for choosing this movie for us. And
you're welcome.
And I'm glad you did. So, and Ben, thanks for joining in the fun. I'm glad you were able to
I'm glad I was on this one too and got to. I wouldn't have watched it again otherwise. I'm glad I did. Yep.
Very cool.
So thank you, Bethany.
It only took 4 years?
Yeah, 4.5 years. It's not bad. Yeah, you and Nicholas, because Nicholas has been asking for UHF. So finally, I'll do that in a couple months. So this was the season to put those cash in those requests. Like, you're gonna do this movie. So, and we'll get to this as Spinal Tap in 2026. So for Ben. So.
So just hold on.
Everybody gets one, and that's it. I'm just kidding. I'm an old poop. All right. Thanks everybody for tuning in. Thanks for listening. Please send us an email. Reach out to us on social media. Like us. Give us a great review. We appreciate you listening to this show. We got more great stuff coming. Got some fun things happening this summer. More details to come. But thanks again for tuning in. I'm Tim Williams for the 80s Flick Flashback Podcast. Want to dance, or would you rather just suck face?
So good.
Yeah.
Every day is just pure fun. Goonies never say die, they remind in the those films we lose our mind. John Hughes and all his teen dreams, montages and synthwave themes. In Ferris hands, the city bends, living a life like it never ends.
You're still here? It's over. Go home. Go.